Julia cherished and nurtured her mother's friend wholeheartedly, even when the woman's own son showed no concern upon the older woman's passing. Julia's unexpected and startling visit to her son's office left him astonished. Maya and Ileana were two older women who wished they had met years ago. "We would have been the best of friends," Maya said, extending her tired hand to Ileana. Instead, they had met each other in the final months of their lives, bedridden next to each other in the palliative care unit of the hospital, waiting gracefully for their time to come. The two women had led lives that were not very different from each other. They both had married early, lost their partners early, and sacrificed the big and small pleasures and thrills of youth to raise their children. Maya had one son, Aiden, and Eliana had a daughter, Julia. "I think I'm going to die without getting to see my son, Eliana," Maya would cry silently. Aiden was the manager of the million-dollar family business that his parents had built. He had only ever visited his mother at the hospital once to push her to write a will and give up the estate. Maya had refused, and Aiden had stormed out of the hospital, muttering, "See if I ever come back now." He never came back indeed. For the last few weeks of her life, Maya had only two people in her life to call her own: her friend Ileana and her daughter Julia. Eliana's chatter and sense of humor dulled Maya's pain, but it was the presence of Julia that brightened her day. Julia worked at a flower shop around the corner, and sometimes she took up her mother's old weekend job of mopping the floors for a boutique at the mall. Unlike Aiden, Julia would visit her mother every single day, and she had formed a rather special bond of friendship with Maya. "Don't call me Aunt Maya, you can call me names," she had said to Julia. When Julia visited, she often brought flowers from the shop, one for her mother, but always two for Maya. And Julia wouldn't help Maya with the young woman. She would comb her hair, take her out for some sunlight, and even clean up after her. "You were my second mom," Julia would say and kiss the wrinkles on the woman's forehead. Julia felt blessed to be around both women and learned some of the most valuable lessons and strength and grace from their stories. When she got a call from the hospital one day, she came rushing to learn that her mother had passed away just a few minutes ago. Julia held on to Maya's feeble arms and wept like a child. "I have no one, I have nothing," she cried, even in the depth of that grief, and remembered to feed Maya at dinner, apply jasmine oil to her hair for restful sleep, and give her medication before leaving for the night. The next morning, she learned that Maya, too, had breathed her last in her sleep. After 2 days of being in shock, Julia broke down as she laid a fresh bunch of flowers on the graves of two of her favorite women in the world. She couldn't bring herself to leave the cemetery. A few steps away from her, Aiden was standing impatiently at his mother's grave, eyeing his watch and calling his chauffeur every other minute. "I wonder what that other woman's daughter is going to gain by crying her eyes out like that," he thought, looking at Julia. "She's talking to the grass and laying flowers like it means something." Aiden shook his head and turned to leave. He did not expect to see Julia in his office a few days later. "You, what are you doing here?" the man asked Julia in a condescending tone. "I've come here to claim my inheritance," Julia said coldly. Aiden laughed and stroked his chin. "Wasn't your mother a janitor or something? What did she leave you, a castle?" Julia turned to the man coldly and said, "Oh, let me clarify. I have come here to claim the inheritance that your mother left me." Aiden seemed to pause for a second in shock before he burst into mocking laughter. "Yeah, right. That old woman refused to pass on her wealth to her own son, and she just happened to give it to the daughter of some woman she shared a hospital room with. Good joke." Julia calmly opened the folder she was carrying and showed Aiden a document. She waited and watched as the man's ego trickled down into shock and anger. "I can't believe she did this, that crazy woman," Aiden screamed, forgetting that the employees in his office were watching. "Don't you say another demeaning word about my Maya. You never knew her value. So you observed her kindness. You may not have cared about her." "But I did," Julia snapped at the man. "Well played." Aiden's slow clap was sarcastic. "So we give a few foot rubs and you get a lifetime of easy money? I'm not here to collect the wealth you left me, but I will work as hard as I can to find a deserving cause to put all that wealth into. Now, if you'll just do your job, show me to the safety deposit box and step back, please. I'd like to make sure that it's all indeed safe from all greedy eyes." Silent and subdued, Aiden complied with Julia's directives, unlocking the safety deposit box designated for his mother. Shock and shame washed over him as he beheld its contents, a trove of antique jewelry alongside neatly stacked bundles of cash. Unable to meet Julia's gaze, Aiden felt the weight of regret settle upon him. In that moment, he grasped not only the financial loss, but also the profound absence of a loving mother he had long neglected.